Hi everyone, this is Brian Hayes and welcome to episode 37 of the Music Mind podcast. Today my special guest is Jason Whitmore, a fantastic professional saxophonist who hails from sunny California. Please enjoy my conversation with Jason Whitmore. Well, hi, Jason, and welcome to the Music Mind podcast. Fantastic to have you here today, all the way from sunny California, as my special guest for episode 37 in the series.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me, man.
Our audience have just seen and heard a really entertaining clip you've got on Instagram of the great old Ray Charles hit, Hit the Road Jack. Now, it's a sax quartet, but you do some clever things. There's hand clapping going on there. Tell us a bit about your process. I suppose even starting with picking the tune. What is it about a song that grabs your attention and makes you say, I can do something with this?
You know, maybe it's just the way I listen wherever I happen to be at any given moment, and if there's music or if I'm intentionally listening or if I'm just sort of tangentially listening to the TV or the music in the store or whatever, sometimes I hear a song and I'm like, and I can kind of picture how I would recreate that with just me. And I almost think of it as sort of a challenge, like how can I translate that whole song, that production, Ray Charles, classic vocals, the piano, the background singers, and all that stuff. Like, how can I make four saxophones sound like that? And I sort of enjoy the challenge of it and try to make it as full and representative of that track, but just with a minimal instrumentation. And I don't know, it's just a classic song. I mean, that's right in my wheelhouse. Like I love, old soul, R&B, and like that's kind of at my roots anyway. So
you've got a really good feel for it. It's not a fake sound. You can tell that it is the music or one of the types of music you really like. Now the quartet itself's a little unusual, 2 altos and 2 baritones. Are you essentially, I get the impression you're an E-flat man. You've lived your life in E-flat. Is that pretty fair to say? Or
Yeah, I mean, I've played all the saxophones and I've owned all the saxophones at one point in my life or another. And, like life moves on. I'm 55 now. And, sometimes you get a new horn, sometimes you sell a horn or whatever. And, for the last several years, I've been working with cannonball saxophones. That has been my instrument of choice. And so I'm one of their endorsing artists. And at the moment, I own their Big Bell Series alto, and that is my main workhorse. That is what I gig on. That is what I'm playing like 99% of the time. And then just for the fun of it, I've always wanted to own a Barry. I've played Barry throughout in some parts of my college career and stuff, but I've never owned one, and I've always wanted one because they're just so damn fun to play. And so I got one just a couple of years ago. And I there it is right there.
Yeah,
and I primarily, it's just I like making content with it. And so those are the 2 horns that I have, and so that's just out of necessity is how I set up the quartet. If I had a tenor and I had a soprano, maybe I would have made it like a legitimate saxophone quartet. But those are the 2 horns I'm playing right now, and so that's what I use.
Well, I think that's part of the magic of it. It was one of the first things that attracted me to your videos was that it wasn't, I guess, the standard instrumentation in your
Hmm.
quartet sort of settings. Just technically, as far as the audio recording, say, and we'll use Hit the Road Jack as an example. Do you
Yeah.
start with a click track? How do you build that track up? What does it start with?
It's a good question. I use Logic Pro for recording audio. And so first thing I'll do, so in a tune like that, especially where there really was no other instruments going on, it was literally four saxophones. And you're right, like I was kind of hand clapping. I think actually, now that I think about it, I think I did use some MIDI tambourine action in
Okay.
it. It's a little subtle in it, but I think that might have been in there too. So I just kind of, I listen to the song and I think about like how I can translate what the real recording is and how I can make that happen on one of the saxophones. And so I just start with the bass line and then I kind of add another line on top of it. And I sort of just add, I don't really write it down. In this case, I didn't really write anything down. I just sort of layered the horns over the top and, trial and error with voicings and general like arrangement and till it just kind of, forms itself.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I mean, the end result, it's always one of those things. Sometimes when you hear a multi-track recording, it's just sterile. You can tell they've had 48,000 goes at it, and you can sort of tell they're even bored with it. But
Mm.
your recordings, to me, there's that always that spark of excitement. I think you've probably answered it. That I assume sometimes you might write out an arrangement, but to be doing that as a head arrangement sort of guarantees that it's going to stay fresh for you because you're not too sure what's coming around the corner until you've
Yeah.
played it. I want to move on. We're going to listen to you playing a lot of different styles today, and many of your videos are very short, so it's great. We can fit quite a bit of music in today. But it's one thing to play I suppose, a jumpy little groover like Hit the Road Jack, where none of the instruments are terribly exposed, I guess, tone wise. You've all got rhythmic parts to play. The next track I want to play is the opposite of that. It's one of my favourite songs of all time, New York State of Mind, Billy Joel's
Mm.
classic. Now, over here in Australia, when I first heard that, I could have swore that was Phil Woods taking that sax solo. And many years later, through the internet, oh no, hang on, that's Richie Canata. It was a wonderful sax solo and it just caught my ear as if, man, what a song, what a
Yeah.
solo. Now, what is great in this clip is there's just you and your alto, fantastic backing track, but you are super exposed. If you've got a crap sound, the world is going to know it when you play this song. But
Absolutely.
yeah. And tell me a bit about this song because this is a different one. This isn't really a clever video. This is just a great recording. Talk about this one.
Well, when I'm creating content, well, first of all, like the content I create, the videos that I put out is music that I enjoy playing. Like fundamentally, it's music that I like, and I like a lot of genres and a lot of styles of music, and so I do try to make calculated choices of like tunes that show off different aspects of music. So in this case, yeah, it's very much about the melody and the tone and the sound and everything. Um, this, truth be told, the backing track that I use, I lifted from one of my favorite all-time living sax players, Eric Marienthal.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic play. Yeah, yeah.
so if you go and listen to his recording, it's just phenomenal. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him and seeing him play a few different times. And so this comes from his recording, and through a little audio engineering magic, I kind of lifted the backing track from his recording.
Oh, I'm sure he won't
Hope,
mind because you've done a wonderful
yeah.
version of it. Let's have a look and a listen to some just really beautiful musicianship here. Jason playing New York State of Mind. Jason, that's fantastic. You touched a moment ago that you are using the Cannonball brand of saxophones, and I think you said the Big Bell model alto there.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about Cannonball. They're relatively new, I think, in the industry. What's been your, how did you discover them? And tell us a bit about that instrument.
Well, I was aware of their horns, I don't know, since the 90s or so. And like a lot of sax players, I was a Selmer guy early on and growing up and everything. And I attend the NAM meeting every year, the National Association of Music Merchants, and it's in LA, which
Yes.
fortunately is very close to me. And that is a great meeting for any musician of any level, of any kind, to go and network and to get inspired. And so I've been going to the NAM conference every year for years now. And I believe it was at one of those meetings that I started to, go by their booth and, play on the horns. And I was just, oh my God, like these things sound just amazing. They're uh, quite intentionally, the difference with in the Big Bell series is the neck is one of the biggest differences that I found. If you've noticed, their neck is has this underslung octave
Yeah.
key, which is
Yeah.
kind of unique. There's a couple other models out there that use this. So these horns come with two necks, a traditional one and the one this they call their fat neck.
Okay.
And don't quote me on all the science about it, but apparently one of the big things is without the hole in the top where the octave mechanism would normally be and the metal that sticks through it, the air flows through it differently, and it essentially it creates this bigger, fatter sound, which is great for like contemporary jazz and also and contemporary sound. So it's a little bit bigger, a little more spread of a sound as opposed to like a more of a focused classical kind of a sound.
Great.
And
While you've got it there, just while you've got it there, I guess
yeah,
the other really two important parts of a saxophone, as far as I suppose playability and getting a sound, is the mouthpiece and the reed combination, and also the
absolutely.
ligature. You've got a beautiful sort of gold mouthpiece there. Tell us a bit about. I notice you use the same mouthpiece on baritone, or it looks like it. Yeah.
They do. It's
Tell us a bit of
identical.
tell us a bit about your mouthpiece choice, and I suppose why you are playing that mouthpiece.
So I think it was through a friend who was playing these. He introduced me to Theo Wani. Theo Wani is the manufacturer, and Theo Wani is like world renowned mouthpiece refacer, and he's developed his own models that he's had around for ages now. And this is the Theo Wani Durga, which in my opinion is like the gold standard for like the big contemporary sound. In case you haven't noticed by now by the way I play
Yeah.
and some of my song choices, I'm more of a contemporary pop kind of style player, and so that's the type of sound concept that I have. And the Durga is it's big, it's bright and edgy, but without being too thin. And it's amazing. Yeah, it's gold. It's gold plated. They're not the cheapest mouthpieces, but I mean they are well made. And just it's incredible. And believe me, like I try all kinds of mouthpieces all the time,
Yes.
just to keep my mind open. And I
Yep.
always come back to this. This has been absolutely my favorite. And it's the same that I use on my baritone.
With
Um,
the ligature, is that built into the mouthpiece, or is it a clip-on sort of ligature there?
it is. It is built in. It is part of the mouthpiece.
Okay.
And yeah, it works incredibly well. I mean, you can change the position, slide it
Yeah.
forward or back. There's about five different positions there for the pressure plate to
Yes.
go. But yeah, it works great.
And
Good
finally,
sound.
that, and I suppose the other really critical thing is I notice you're playing Legier synthetic
Yes,
reeds. I'm really
absolutely.
pleased to find someone else who uses synthetic reeds. I've been with the Barry USA brand for 45 years, and
Mm,
they for me just work great on my horns. But
yeah.
I do a lot of teaching, and I do a lot of school aged student teaching. I always say to people. The student comes in and spends half of the lesson trying to get his reed to work, squeaking and squawking. And if the parents say, I just sort of say, have you ever considered synthetic reeds? I don't care what brand. Oh no, the school teacher won't allow the children in the classroom. I think, there's a lifetime of misery there and potential. I felt really great using synthetic reeds when I read that Artie Shaw's most famous recording was done in World War II at a time when he couldn't get reeds, and of Stardust. And if you listen to, I think it's in 1942, you'll never hear better clarinet playing than Artie's there. And he's playing at that time, I think it was a Brillhart, the cheapest plastic, the only synthetic reed. It was literally like a toothbrush shaved down.
Wow.
And that reed is in, I think, the Smithsonian. It's in a glass case. The reed that Artie Shaw recorded his most famous thing was an absolute throwaway plastic reed. So I always quote that when people say, I couldn't play a synthetic reed. Okay, one of my other favourite sax players when I was a kid growing up was Tom Scott from Tom Scott.
Oh, yeah.
Tom openly says since 1967 he hasn't played anything other than synthetic reed. So all of those famous records that I grew up, I would have never thought it. When you listen to it, it's a great sax sound, as is your sound. So I imagine, it's unlikely you'll ever go back to a cane reed, is it?
No, I spent quite a bit of time. I used to play Java reeds, and I would burn through a reed in a single gig.
Yeah.
Like it would be money for me right out of the package. I would play it by the end of the night. It was toast. And so I was, I looked around and I tried a lot of different reeds. And for me personally, hands down, Leger stood out like a well above anything else, cane or synthetic otherwise.
There's a wonderful story, I don't know whether it's legend or not, but it's a wonderful story of a guy who lived in the apartment below Sonny Rollins in New York. And he said for hours every day, he would hear this saxophone player upstairs playing the same licks and then stopping and playing the same licks. And one day he confronted Sonny, knocked on his door and said, mate, are you all right? What's going on? He said, I'm just looking for a good reed for tonight. Sonny Rollins. The bloke said he would spend hours, this start play. I'm just looking for a good reed for tonight. And I sort of thought, wow, Sonny's from a different generation, but could you imagine if he could have put all that energy and time into just playing rather than the search for the reed,
Seriously, I'll tell you, because I used to teach and I've experienced the same thing. I mean, kids come in and they spend half of their time and energy just trying to get a decent reed, and it's such a hurdle. I mean, it's hard enough to learn the musical instrument from the beginning anyway.
Correct.
Why not remove all of these factors and get something that is super consistent? It's always ready to go. It doesn't require moisture. It can play in any environment. It's going to last longer. I mean, kids don't take care of their stuff. I have two sons myself, and when they were younger, they spent about 2 or 3 years apiece learning the saxophone.
Yep.
They chose saxophone, and so as happy as I was, I taught them, and I made sure that they used Leger reeds to start, and that just it just makes that beginning step so much simpler, and you remove so many hurdles out of the process.
Lee Morgan's famous jazz classic, The Sidewinder, and you've got a great friend on tenor sax here, Lorenzo. Can you tell me a bit about, Lorenzo, and how you come together on this collaboration? It's a wonderful track.
I've met Lorenzo a couple times at the NAMM conference. Again,
okay.
Like a great way to network. And man, he's an incredible musician. I've been following him on social media forever. He's a great instructor. He's an amazing player. He's a Grammy Award winner. And so I asked if he would mind collaborating with me, and I had like no expectation. And, to my wonder, he said yes, he was totally into it. We actually did a couple of collaborations. And so that recording, I tried to like boil that song down to just an a cappella sax background. It's a very simple kind of chord structure. It's a 12 bar blues and, simple chords. So I thought I could just kind of create a little groove with the Barry and alto playing in the background. And then, we could take turns playing melody and soloing over the top of it. So that's what
Fantastic.
we
And,
did.
and I believe there's three altos, Lorenzo's tenor, and your baritone. So again, an interesting sax choir, not what you would probably expect.
So Lorenzo Ferrero, yeah, he's out of Los Angeles. Amazing player.
So, Jason, how did it all start for you? What's your earliest memory of having an interest in music?
Great question. Interestingly enough, my parents weren't musicians. It wasn't something, I wasn't one of those kids where they like handed me an instrument and forced me to go to my lessons and go practice and do all that thing.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that I love music so much, and especially in those early development years when it's so crucial, was because it was my own choice. Like I decided to do it, not my parents or anybody else. And I was just interested in it. I remember as a relatively young kid, I saw the movie Fame,
Ah,
and the kids in New York City, and they're going to this performing arts school, and for some reason that had an impact on me. I wanted to be Bruno, the guy that was the keyboard player, and he had all the synthesizers and stuff.
yep.
And this is in like the early '80s, when um, and yeah, around sixth grade, was when you could choose to be in band or physical education. And I was like, I guess I'll try band, and I guess I'll try that saxophone thing over there. I really had no influence. I don't have a story that like
Wow.
I
Yeah.
saw a concert and I wanted to be just like that guy. It was a very frivolous
Yeah.
decision. And luckily, because it was my own decision, I had some ownership, and I just stuck with it. Now I'm lucky that I grew up in Texas in a really small town, and our music program in the public school there was really good actually for especially for such a small town. I had some great band directors, and it was a great culture to be in, learning as a student. And then when I finished high school, I was like, well, I can't imagine doing anything else but playing music. So I guess I'm going to study music in college. And then I went to University of Houston,
Yeah.
U of H, and got my degree in saxophone performance. And then that's when I started playing. I think my first professional gig was when I was 18. Um, and then, yeah, I just never stopped.
So, was that performance degree back in your time, was it, I'm assuming, jazz based or contemporary based, or was it classical based? What was it at you in your time?
Great question. Unfortunately, at the time at my school, there wasn't a specific jazz studies degree. There
Right.
was jazz classes, so I played in the big band every year. That was like the highlight of my college career, getting to play in that band, directed by Noe Marmolejo, who is still there, by the way, after all
Great.
these years. In fact, I just went back to Texas, and I made it a point to stop at the campus and visit him and reconnect, which was really nice. And then all the networking of the other, all the college students in that jazz band were also working musicians. And so again, the networking of like being around those guys and like getting to sub for some of their gigs when they couldn't make one, like that was a great introduction to the world of being a working musician, just being around other working musicians. I practiced my butt off, through those college years, learning those tunes, those big classical pieces, memorizing a lot of those. I probably spent more time on my instrument per day than at any other point in my life. And so
Yeah.
like that period was quite a practical education, as well as the actual degree that came along with it.
So it sounds like if you look back at your life, you've had a nice balance between structured education, but encouraged, I take it from what you're saying, with a heck of a lot of playing. That degree
Yeah.
required you to play, 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 not just practice, practice, practice.
During those college years, I joined my first like gigging, my steady gigging band, and it was friends of my parents. So they were all like a generation older than me
Yes.
in this blues band. And here I am, like this 18, 19-year-old white kid
Yep.
playing in this blues band. And that was my first like dedicated band that I was a full-fledged member of, and it was the first time I was the only horn in the band, so I'm playing the
Ah,
blues,
yeah.
and I'm in a amplified setting, drums, keys, bass, guitar, vocals, and playing like Buddy Guy and Etta James, and playing like all kinds of like old blues stuff. And I think that broke me out of my sort of like structured music education and really taught me how to just listen. Like the leader of the band, he wasn't musically like classically trained.
No,
So if he was like teaching me a song, he would just be like, look, it goes like this. And he would just kind of like hum
that's,
something to me.
that's right.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, is that the one chord or the four chord?
Who
Like
cares? Don't talk
how,
to him about it. That's right.
yeah, he's like, it just sounds like this.
Yeah.
And
Here's a classic low tech video someone took of you playing Charlie Parker's Yardbird Suite in how you got away with doing this in a hotel lobby
yeah.
without someone coming and tapping you on the shoulder. It's just I want to share it with the audience because there's no trickery here. There's no Neumann microphone or lexicon reverbs. This is you on your own, just playing alto. Let's have a look and a listen to it, and then we'll come back and talk about developing your own tone. What is your concept of developing your own sound, in this case on the alto sax, but on any wind instrument? Talk a bit about your thoughts on that.
Man, that's a great question. Like, how much time do you have? It's developing sound is something that I feel like you pursue that your entire career. Like it's an ongoing, and I remember like how frustrating it was early on, like listening to David Sanborn. Like he was one of my biggest influences in terms of my sound concept, like what I thought like a lead alto sound should be, a soloist should sound like that was the ideal sound. And I remember just the frustration of like trying to get there. But I will tell anybody that is feeling that frustration, that it is an ongoing, never-ending pursuit. To this day, in my 30-something years of playing professionally and, still working, I'm a full-time musician, I still pursue that and I still try to fine tune it and try to figure it out. Um, I would say, if in terms of developing your sound, the number one thing you got to do is just listen, like intently listen, and listen to the people that you admire. Like, choose somebody, choose a sound, choose a concept that you admire, that you want to try to pursue. And then you need to go and listen to yourself. The one thing I didn't have, well, I mean, we had tape recorders when I was a kid, but I mean, these days you've got so much better technology with your iPhone, with, apps that you can use here. If you got a laptop and just like a decent little studio mic, listen to yourself playing different styles and critique yourself, and then go back and do it again. To this day, I will record myself playing like a full solo over a song, and then I'll stop and I'll go back and I'll listen to it. And I'll really think about how I sounded at certain given moments in certain ranges. And then I'll go back and do it again. And then I'll listen to that. Listen to yourself, critique yourself as much as you can, and always stay inspired. Keep listening to the people that you want to sound like.
Great advice. Some real gems in there. What about listening to singers? Because there's a real difference between how a singer tells their story compared to how an average player, and one of the dangers on the saxophone, I'm sure you'd agree, is we can wiggle our fingers around for 24 hours. We might have to have a toilet break and have a drink, but you really can't hurt yourself on the saxophone. If you try and do it on the trumpet, unless you're really gifted, you're going to end up in the emergency ward if you try and just, play high and loud and that. So I think one of the great things about the saxophone is that it's relatively easy to produce a sound, but that is also a real challenge to me. And I notice it's one of the biggest things I've got to keep saying to students. What story are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? I'm hearing the triplets at 240 beats a minute, fantastic. But what's your thoughts of not so much mimicking a singer, but listening to great singers? Are you a fan of that?
1,000%. God, that could not be overstated. I think, at the end of the day, music is about melody. That's what moves people. That's what people remember. That's what people hum, sing in their head. And if, as any instrument player, if you're not influenced by how singers execute a melody, then you're missing the boat. Like it is absolutely should be a part of, your listening routine, your, what influences your sound and your interpretation of melody. Yeah, all the time. I love listening to the great vocalists and imagining playing the words that are coming out of their mouth, imagining those lyrics and imagining those inflections, but breathing that through, in my case, your saxophone.
You do a beautiful arrangement of one of the Ellington classics, Don't Get Around Much Anymore. This song's been around for, I don't know, I was going to say 100 years, but it must be getting close to it. Fantastic song to play on any instrument. You do a great little quartet version here where you actually feature the baritone sax in the lead role, supported by two altos and a second baritone. Tell me a bit about this. How did this arrangement come about? The decision to play the lead voice on the baritone.
So it's funny I know that my arrangements are some kind of somewhat interesting, but honestly, it's just out of necessity, because these are the horns I have.
Yeah,
if I played bass clarinet and I had one around, you'd probably see that.
Yeah,
it really just kind of comes with these are the instruments that I have. So that's what I'm using.
Yeah,
but yeah, like I said, I really love playing the baritone sax, and I've only in recent years, I got this one from Cannonball. It's the Raven baritone sax. It is an amazing horn. It practically plays itself, but it is so fun to play. And that melody just seemed like very conducive to the baritone lead. And I believe at the time that I did that recording, I was also testing out some new Theo Wani mouthpieces, and they sent me one of their new jazz mouthpieces. They sent me a few actually, but they sent me one for baritone specifically, and it was like their jazz model.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I really want to feature this instrument, and I
Yep.
also want to really test out the tone and the sound with this specific mouthpiece. It's not the one I play regularly, but it's a little more of a traditional jazz sound. And yeah, so I decided to arrange it that way with baritone in the lead to kind of test that mouthpiece out too.
Fantastic. Let's have a look and a listen to Ellington's Don't Get Around Much Anymore. What are you thinking about when you are, and I'm not a great fan of the word, improvising? What's going through your mind?
Um, it's a little different depending on the piece that I'm playing. Like I improv just to show you how broad my spectrum is. Sometimes I'm playing, a jazz standard, and I'm making a video or I'm practicing and I'm playing a solo over Don't Get Around Much Anymore.
Yep.
Sometimes and with a lot of my actual professional work, I'm playing alongside a DJ, and the
Yes.
DJ is playing a track, and sometimes it's a track I've never heard before.
Yep.
Quite often that is the case, and I am literally improvising over a recording and just trying to predict what's going to come up. Now, usually in that kind of music, it's a little more predictable, chord structure wise than say like a jazz standard. But in either case, I would say throughout that whole spectrum, I'm trying to like take myself out of the equation and put myself in the listener's shoes and play something that sounds like it was written to begin with, like it was intended to be the melody, like it was.
Yeah.
So you want to play something that is intentional, not just structurally correct because you're playing the right scales, you're playing the right chord tones, but you want to play something that has some melodic intent. And a lot of times, you touched on it earlier. You talked about the influence of singers and like how a vocalist approaches singing a melody. And I think of that a lot, like if I'm playing a song, like how would a vocalist sing through these chord changes? How would they sing a different melody other than the actual melody that I just played? And I try to put myself try to give myself that perspective and put myself in those shoes. So I'm playing, I'm thinking melodic.
Yeah. And you just dropped a real gem there a moment ago where you said you try and put yourself in your audience's chair. I think that is, it should be dead set front and center in every musician's mind. When those flurry of notes are happening, are you in any way concerned about the chord changes in the background, or are you just shooting the breeze there?
No, absolutely. I definitely think with some logic part of my brain, going, okay, this is the dominant leading to a minor, so let's use some of these chord tones because they're different from the one chord.
Yep.
I'm definitely thinking, you know, uh, some structured uh, type of thought process through playing the chords correctly. But I guess like it depends on like how comfortable you are with the piece. And so ultimately, like you kind of bring up an even bigger topic, which is like, how do you get from playing the chord changes where you're really like, you're focused on those chords. You're like, okay, I'm playing up and down these chords. I'm really nailing those and getting my passing tones in. And how you get past that and to where you're just free flowing, just thinking, just, you know, just playing melodically. You're just playing what is coming to your head.
What would be a dot point answer to that? If I know we could talk for 5 hours on that, but what
One
is the
word,
takeaway? Yep.
one word, preparation.
Yeah. Okay.
Preparation. You
Great.
practice, you
Yeah.
practice, you practice, you practice. You know those changes so well that you're not even thinking about it.
Yep.
And you know the best analogy is with like language. Like you and I have grown up speaking the English language.
Yes.
You know, when we have a conversation like this, you're not thinking sentence structure, you're not thinking grammar. It just flows through you because you've been doing it forever. If you're learning a new language, you are thinking those structures. You're like, oh my gosh, did I use the right verb tense in this?
Exactly.
You know,
Great
so
analogy. Great analogy.
same thing with music. Yeah, it's like you like practice those chord structures, like practice improvising, practice being in the moment. So when it does come time to be in the moment, like all of the fundamentals, you know, are just natural and they just flow through you.
I notice you've got a keyboard there beside you. I imagine, I imagine you're not an Oscar Peterson on the piano, but maybe it is a hit. So through your university studies, I'm assuming as a single note instrumentalist, it was probably mandatory to learn some piano or some chordal instrument, or was it or not?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was. And if there are any regrets in my life, it's not learning more piano at an earlier age, particularly earlier with my musical, you know, process than what I did. I was supposed to take 2 semesters, you know, basically the equivalent of a school year to taking piano and like, you know,
Yep.
be able to read and play. And I kind of just got through it, but it was a struggle. It was very foreign to me.
Yes.
So my advice to any musician, regardless of what instrument you're playing, or if you're a vocalist or whatever it is learn piano at the same time. Like if you're learning guitar, also learn piano. If you're learning a wind instrument, also learn piano. Do that at the same time because you know all the theory of music is just quite literally and figuratively in black and white right here. And it makes the understanding of those fundamentals so much easier. And this will always translate into something that will benefit your main instrument.
Superstition. What a great song by what a great musician, Stevie Wonder. Now, in this video, you're back to you at your best with your high-tech use of videos. Brilliant what you do here. I think at one stage you end up with 8 saxophones in this. Or I don't know. Yeah, and I forget what numbers.
And the truth is there may be more than that in the. If you look at the Logic with all the like channels, there may be like 12 saxophones in there. I don't even know. I lost track.
Oh, it's a great arrangement. And I love that. You know, as a courtesy to Stevie, you're even wearing the sunglasses, which is a cool look. Let's just have a look and a listen to Superstition. Jason, one of your more unique aspects as a professional sax player is I understand you've spent quite a deal of time working with DJs in the dance club scene as an acoustic
Yeah.
instrumentalist pairing with a DJ. How did this come about? Tell us a bit about this because it is a little unusual.
Yeah, I saw like in the early 2000s, I saw a saxophone player. It was in a nightclub in Las Vegas, and I saw a saxophone player playing along with the DJ. I was out on the dance floor, and I was like, "Wait, what is this guy doing?" And he
Mm,
was kind of making it work. And at the time, a lot of good friends of mine were either DJs or they were club promoters, and I was into that kind of scene too. You know, I like house music and EDM, and so it was easy. Fortunately, I already kind of had a lot of that network established. I had friends that were DJs and stuff,
okay.
so I just very gradually started kind of sitting in with them. You know, I'd get a mic out and I would just play and just kind of jam along. And a lot of that music is essentially like one chord and just a beat. It's more of a, more of like a rhythmic kind of thing. But but I at first I wasn't sure it was going to be cool. Like I didn't think people were going to be into it, but I gave it a shot, and now I love it. And now it makes up like 99% of the work that I do.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's become it's a pretty popular thing. I mean, like you go to like nightclubs and DJs to try and reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
They're starting to integrate live musicians with the DJ. I do a lot of private events, even weddings, and for their entertainment, they want something different than just the DJ. So they're trying. It's a unique thing, and it's kind of become a thing. Like it's starting to become more and more popular. I still meet people every time I play. They're like, "Wait, I've never seen a saxophone player with a DJ." But
Yeah.
yeah, and it's taken me like all over the country, North America, for different events. And
Yeah. On those gigs, obviously the DJ, he's in it for the long haul. If he's booked for 3 hours, he's there. I'm
Mhm.
assuming, are you sort of a come and go part of that act, or are you stuck with him for the 3 hours?
Well, the cool thing of being one of the first people to really start doing that, at least in my region of the country, like I don't know that anybody else was doing this before I was,
Yep.
is I kind of create the scope of my job.
Ah, okay.
So I
Okay.
basically
Yeah.
it's and nobody knows what to do, so they kind of like trust me that I'm just going to do what's right. So yeah, if it's like a 3 or 4 hour set and the DJ's playing, obviously the
Yep.
whole time, I'll come in and play a few songs and then I'll stop and I'll come back in and I'll play
Yes.
and and again, going back to putting myself in the audience's shoes. If I'm on the dance floor, if I'm hanging out in the club, like I want to
Mm,
make sure that I'm adding something to the DJ and not distracting or not being too cumbersome. Like one thing about this playing in this kind of environment is it could be very easy to overplay.
absolutely.
Um, because
Yeah.
from a technical standpoint, it's not hard,
No.
but you really want to restrain. And so the notes that you play, the lines that you play, the solos that you play mean something. And so it's like in a moment, and then you step back and you give it some time to rest. So I
Yeah.
try to just feel it out, and
Well, I think this is a fascinating thing. The audience for this podcast is a wide range of people, quite a lot of school aged music students who like to listen to the stories of us crusty old guys who've been there and done that. But there's also a real range of, your podcast, I'm sure this episode will attract saxophone fans of all sorts of ages. I'm just amazed when you said before that, this is a massive part of your income is this type of work. The first time I
yeah.
saw anyone do this, and I'm sure you're a fan of the great Candy Dolfer, amazing
Oh
alto
yeah.
player. Well, Candy,
Yeah, she's
somewhere hidden on YouTube, there's a clip of her, many, many years ago with her trumpet playing mate, and I just can't remember his name, but he's a fantastic trumpet. The two of them with a DJ, and they're sort of doing, they're dancing around. They got the little radio mics on, and they are
Mhm.
just nailing it on a dance floor. It must have been, it's the first time I remember seeing that so long ago, it's ridiculous, and thinking, wow, it trumpet and alto grooving
Yeah.
to, dance music. And they were really nailing it, like she'd
Cool.
play and he'd play. Then they'd do some hot little horn riffs together that they're just making up on the spot. You can tell they're just doing it
Yeah.
on the
Yeah. Yeah.
spot. Yeah, I want to share with the audience a little couple of moments of what this scene is like. So I've joined two clips together. One, I think you're at a dance club called Dystopia, and you're up on a
It,
stage here. You're up above the audience, and
yeah.
they've got a great light show, and you certainly are like a featured act here.
Sorry. Well, so that was Academy in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, is the name
Ah,
of the club. For the
okay.
record, it's a big dance club. I think Dystopia was the name of the event. Sorry to interrupt,
Ah,
but yeah.
okay. Yeah. So you're up on the stage, and then I've linked together another track where you're at somewhere, you're out there with the dancers, to some degree taking your life in your own hands, because you look at
Yeah.
when the people watch this clip, I guess it's fair to say most of them have had a skinful, and there's one chap approaching you from behind who looks as if he wants to get quite amorous with you as you're playing the sax. But
Yeah.
everyone's enjoying it. And the fact that
Hmm.
you're brave enough to go down there with them must add, you must have some stories there where that does get a bit dodgy. Have you had some moments where you sort of second guess whether you might have to back?
Very, very much so, very much so. But it's fun. I mean, like at the end of the day, we're entertainers,
Yes.
and when you can tap into the energy of the audience,
Yeah.
in such a way where you are all like sharing this moment, and you're literally in the middle of it, and like you get like that's why we do this. That's why we do this. It's all of that energy and like love that you feel because you're sharing this moment. And everybody's on a high and just dancing and vibing out and loving the music and having a great time.
Fantastic. Let's share a bit of that vibe. We'll show our audience just a little bit of you in the club scene.
Make some noise for Jason on sax!
I want to go 180 degrees in the opposite direction here. You've got a beautiful duet of the great old tune called Baby It's Cold Outside. Now, because, as you said, you only own two instruments, it's probably, it's not a surprise that this is an alto and a baritone duet. But you
Yeah.
play it, the video is beautifully low key. You show some of your personality when you're looking at your other self here. One
Hmm.
of the things I think that is a credit to you is your ability to pivot and say, look, I love jazz, I love, funk, I love dance. Can you talk a bit about that? Is it just a mind game where you say, oh, okay, I just blew my head off at the dance club last night for 3 hours. Do you come home and think the next day, oh, I might do Baby It's Cold Outside? I'm just intrigued as to that chameleon little effect that you are very good at doing. Tell us a bit about that.
Hey, well, I attribute it to, just like I said, like I play music that I enjoy listening to, and like I have a pretty broad range of music that I like to play, and sometimes I like to challenge myself to play very different styles, and if it's music I like, I'm going to enjoy playing it, and it's, and it's easier to excel at something if you truly like what you're doing. And I love jazz. I've always studied jazz. I listen to it all the time. I also love to go out to the dance club, and I love house music and, electronic music, and um, funk and soul and everything in the middle. Like I love all types of music. I love it all, and I like to be a part of it. I don't particularly love country western music, but if I was in a country western band with some really great musicians, I think I would learn to love it just because I love to play music. I love to play music well with good musicians.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm inspired by a pretty broad range. So I enjoy doing it all.
I think what you've described there is a recipe to live a non-frustrating life as a musician. You seem to have set yourself up, no doubt quite deliberately, with these polar opposite tasks. Let's have a look at your version. This is a wonderful little great fun video here. Baby, it's cold outside.
Perfect for the season. Happy holidays, everybody.
Same to you. So, Jason, I believe you're in San Diego at the moment. Your studio, San Diego, which is for people. I'm in Australia, so I think it's sort of down near the Mexico border. Is it? It's in California, but pretty low down.
I can literally see the Mexican border from the other part of my apartment. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're really close.
Yeah. One question I wanted to ask you, because all your videos are in like this beautiful setting. You see the cars below and that. You're obviously in a multi-story apartment block. What's your relationship with the neighbours when you're recording those and practicing? How do you get on?
Well, I sort of asked act first and then ask for forgiveness later.
Okay.
So far, I've been relatively lucky. My wife and I just moved into this particular building 6 months ago.
Okay.
And we're on the 15th floor. We have neighbors above and below. And so far, no complaints. So
no knocks on the door so far.
No knocks on the doors. I mean, when I play, I'm not doing it in the middle of the night.
No.
I try to choose a middle time during the day. So
yeah.
I think it's, and actually, truth be told, like this place is pretty well insulated intentionally because we are next door to the San Diego Padres, the baseball league, the stadium.
Okay.
So I can actually go outside of my apartment onto the deck and watch the baseball games and see the concerts that are in. It's literally like right outside my door.
So that's the answer. People who move where you are, they'd know this is going to be a noisy environment. You know,
we're in the middle of the city. This is a very like busy, late night. Yeah, there's concerts, baseball games. I think you kind of expect to have a little bit of city ambiance going on.
I'm based just a bit north of Brisbane, which is one of Australia's big cities. I believe you said off camera there you've spent a little bit of time in Australia. Tell us about your Australia connection.
I did. You wouldn't know it growing up in Texas on the Gulf Coast, but I love to surf. And being a surfer in Texas means you have to travel to get really good waves. And so after college, I traveled with a few buddies of mine to Surfers Paradise, not far from Brisbane.
No. Yeah.
And so we spent a few months there. We lived, we shared a flat like right on the coast.
Yeah.
It was basically just a surf trip, but I only had enough money to get myself there. I knew I was going to have to find some sort of under the table work to stay. And so I brought my horn and I went out. I mean, you've been to Surfers Paradise,
absolutely.
I'm sure. It's
yeah.
There's that main drag, like near Main Beach, and there's street performers everywhere. So I was a street performer. For all of those months, and doing that, like I would sit out there with my case out, and sometimes the jugglers down the block would yell at me for being too loud. But But I would do it,
Yeah.
and I would make enough money to survive. Like at that time, I was just enough to eat, pay my rent, and then surf every day, and I was happy. That's all I needed, was a simple
Wow.
life. But I think that really gave me a lot of confidence to know, like, look, in life, all I really need is this horn, and
Absolutely.
somehow I will find a way to survive. There's a lot of tourists in that town, and so it wasn't that hard to make enough money to get by. And then through that, I ended up networking and meeting several other musicians. So I was a part of a reggae band, and I was working on a regular basis. I was
Yes.
in a jazz quartet that I was
Yep.
playing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I did some solo work in some coffee shops, and I was actually working more as a musician when I was there on this surf trip than I was back
Surfing.
home.
That's right. Well, you raise a really good thing there, busking. Like,
Yeah.
I'm often confronted with the 15-year-old kid who just tells me his whole life plans. He is going to be the next Dave Cos or whatever. He's going to be a superstar, and I'm always careful not to tap that on the head. But I say to him, I'd say, "You want to be a performer?" "Yeah, I want to be a performer." I said, "Have you ever thought of doing a little bit of busking to really test out whether you do like performing?" "Oh, I wouldn't do that." And I said, "Mate, and you've just said it, it is the best way to work out, is this for you?" Because talk about raw, you are there asking people to give you 30
Yeah.
seconds, 60 seconds of their life to stop and listen to you perform. And if you're lucky, for them to give you some value for what you're doing. And I've never found anyone who said, "Yeah, I'm going to do that." And I'm sort of thinking, well, I think your life as a Dave Cos might be a pipe dream if you're not prepared to work out, do you really like, and as you know, you give so much to your audience. You can't just stand there like a statue and wiggle your fingers on a saxophone as a busker and expect someone to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, he's $20, mate." It just
Yeah.
doesn't work like that.
No, and it's a humbling experience. I mean, people, as a performer, you got to be prepared for people to not like you and to, say you're bad, and just whatever, turn their nose up. And so it's a good way to develop that thick skin. And it's just a great way to practice. Like, you don't have to get hired. You just have to find a good corner and just do it.
That's right.
Show some initiative and just get out and do it.
And develop your own sound and your own approach by doing it. Like you said, it's not a job with a position description that you've got to tick all the boxes. The only danger is that the juggler doesn't throw one of his 10-pin bowling things at you, I suppose, is one of the things. So let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, AI. It's the buzzword of everything, not just the music industry.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older than you, but we sort of come from roughly the same age group. I do play, one of my party tricks is I play 1 million instruments, and I don't set out to be the world's best on any of them, but I play at least 10 at a professional level, one of which is the pedal steel guitar behind me there. Yeah.
Nice.
Now, I'm not a huge fan of country music, but I did spend a number of years when I was growing up playing with one of the top country artists in our country. And I sort of got sick of playing the 3-chord songs. I still play that instrument. I play it my own way. And just to mention a little bit about AI, recently I've just dipped my toe in the water. What is this AI in music? Now, I've been using Band in a Box since 1993 when it came out. My thing is, well, there's a good example of AI. When it first came out, it was horrendous, crappy, just the worst MIDI sounds. Nowadays, for the last 10 years, they've got this thing called Real Tracks. So if I'm looking for a backing band and I can't find a good backing, I'll just create one, And, who's on bass? Oh, that's Ron Carter on bass. Oh, you're playing with some of the best players in the world through AI that in Band in a Box thing, well, can you guys play a C-sharp diminished 7th chord? I'm sure Ron can. But the AI, well, if you want that chord, they'll play it. But recently I thought, what's this thing about AI songwriting? Paid a couple of $100 I won't name the program, download one of the lowest cost AI song generators. Type in a name. One of my heroes growing up was John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater Revival. And in one of his interviews, he said, I had a little exercise book and I didn't write lyrics in it. I wrote song titles. Fogerty walked around with a little exercise book. Oh, Proud Mary. I might write a song about that one day. I don't know what it is, and whatever. So on my phone, I just walk around and think, well, that'd be a good song title, In My Mother's Eyes. Okay, type. Come home, in the AI, light it up. Okay, what's the song title? In My Mother's Eyes. What style do you want? Oh, contemporary country, maybe acoustic. Maybe you can pick 5 different styles. Do you want a male singer or a female singer, or do you want us to randomly pick male and female? Within about 10 clicks and 60 seconds, what I'm enjoying is I'm adding my pedal steel parts to a song that the best Nashville songwriters would be proud to have written, and a band of killer musicians. It's costing me roughly $2 a song, and I'm using it for me as if, hello, do I need to go out of the house to play on the slide dobro on a really contemporary song? Fantastic. In your field, what are you seeing? I suppose, what concerns do you have? I have some concerns. But the people, when the 78 record come out, the musos had enormous concerns when Edison worked out he could capture, Louis Armstrong playing the trumpet. Everyone thought, well, Louis he'll never have a job again in his life. He'll never be asked to play again in his life. And when you think about it, what's your thoughts? Because you're in a different country to me. You're probably seeing it just as much as I'm seeing it over here.
First of all, like with any technology, we've got to look at it like, if it's here and it's got the kind of momentum that it clearly has, we need to learn, as musicians, we need to learn how to embrace it in a way that is going to help us. And we need to move with the cheese, if you know that book. We need to figure out how to reinvent ourselves and do something that AI is not capable of doing. In my opinion, especially it's been going this direction forever with how little the streaming services pay out recording artists, but now, because it's so cheap and easy to create music without any actual musicians, and this is music that you can actually publish and call your own. Like one kid in his bedroom and with a laptop can create these, own it, publish it, and it is his. Correct. It's his art, and he owns the royalties to it. Yes. But the royalties are worth nothing. So in my opinion, like recording artists, that job like that, there's just nothing left. I mean, there's going to be a lot of content out there, and a lot of it will be good and some of it will be crap. But in terms of making money, that's not a revenue source for musicians anymore. It's a tool. It's a tool, but it's not a revenue source. And so we need to find a way to that's something that's not going to replace us. And that last frontier is just live performance.
And so we're seeing over here in Australia, we are seeing a mini surge in live performance. Nowhere near what it was like 20 or 30 years ago, but just starting to see, when touring artists come and do a concert, I don't care who it doesn't have to be Taylor Swift. They are selling out stadiums in Australia because people still want to go out and experiencing live music. Will they buy the artist records? No. Who's got a CD player nowadays? I don't.
Nobody, yeah.
So running around with your merch thing and here's my red vinyl album. Well, good luck with that too. Yeah, you might sell a few, but you're not going to have and this is a great discussion, monetizing your life as a professional musician. How are you seeing social media?
Yeah, social media's role for me at this point is it's a medium for me to just stay busy in between gigs. It's a medium for me to work on my my performance. I'm practicing, I'm learning new tunes, I'm arranging for multiple horns, and I'm creating content that hopefully builds visibility and will help fuel my gigs, at some point it'll be not like it's starting to become like the creator role where, like clearly there's social media content creators where they make money, like that's their actual full-time job and they make a full living on it.
Yes.
I'm starting to make a little money through content creation.
Okay.
But it's nothing it's nothing to even speak of, but
No,
everybody
no.
starts somewhere.
Yes.
So I don't have an expectation that that's going to be my full-time job, but I do expect that it will continue to grow somewhat. So the main focus is social media is my online interactive business card. It keeps my PR out there and hopefully gets me more gigs.
Well, I
Really.
think the other thing, and you've probably found it too, is you are now the second guest that I've had on the podcast that if you weren't on Instagram, I would have never known you existed. Oh, I saw one of your clips and I thought, this guy's great. I started watching a couple and I thought, oh, I've got to ask him, would he like to be on the podcast? Are you also finding it's a way for you to meet new people, potentially to collaborate with people?
1,000%. It's one of my favorite things to do. In fact, there's if you look on my Instagram, there's like several little feature things at the top. There's one that has links to several of my collaborations, which I love to meet people this way, just through social
Yeah.
media and admire their music and let that like inspire me. And I love to like share ideas and sometimes create collaborations. So I've done that with a lot of people whom I've never met in person, but we've shared music back and forth just, through the internet. We've played our parts and like combined and, edit something fun together. It's a great way to interact with people that you wouldn't necessarily might not live in your town or you might not see at a gig. Share ideas, learn from one another, get inspired by one another, and because of the magic of social media, you can sort of reach each other's audiences that way too. So
Yes.
it's good for everybody. It's one of my favorite things about social media is collaborating with people that I may never otherwise meet and get to work with.
One thing that your country does, which our country doesn't, is everyone seems to know the words of your national anthem and will proudly, at a sporting event, they will proudly stand there. And it's something we don't. Our top national sporting teams, it's embarrassing, when they're on TV, none of them know any of the words or even probably couldn't whistle the tune of our national anthem. And it's one of my trips, one of the early trips to America, I was standing next to, it was at Disneyland. Let's have a look at Disneyland. There's a little kid who I reckon he'd be 6 or 7 years old, dressed to the nines. Looked like a little mini George Benson to me. And on the TV screen, there was some sports show and they played the national anthem. In the middle of a crowd, this little guy stood up straight and sang that national anthem in a crowd of strangers. Oh, it just blew me away. I thought, OMG, there's something about this country that I haven't experienced before. Now, where this is leading, I want to play a clip of you playing the American national anthem. Is it next door to you? Is it in a baseball arena? This one that's you've got the.
I've done the national anthem for a dozen or more, 15 or 20 professional team, sports, baseball, basketball, football, hockey. I've done a ton.
Wow.
The one that I've done the most is our Major League Baseball team here in San Diego, which is the San Diego Padres. And yes, that that stadium is literally next door to my building.
As musicians, you guys seem to have a bit of license as to how you play that melody. You're not strictly, and in this one, we're going to see you on the alto sax do it, but you do some nice, you don't break into a John Coltrane solo, but to me, it's not like you're just the lead voice for them to sing along with. And I've noticed that, is that fair to say that, if you did that in Australia, the black van would probably come up and pull beside you and you'd just be never seen again because it's just sacrilege. How dare you jazz up the national anthem, whether you're singing it or playing it. But is that a fair thing to say that in America there is a bit of license to play it your own way?
A little bit. And fortunately, like some really well-respected, huge artists, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, Ray Charles, like giant names in the world of music, not just United States, but the world of music, have made famous recordings with their own, bit of, their own spin, their own personality.
Yep.
And so I think it's relatively accepted that the musician is going to put a little bit of their personality, but it never fails leave it up to the internet trolls out there,
Oh,
that I'll post it,
yeah.
and somebody will be like, man, how dare you, play
Well,
anything but
yeah.
the actual notes, and like
Oh, yeah.
it never fails. Somebody will
Someone
always
will.
tear you up.
It's
So
easy. Yeah.
there is a fine line. There's a fine
Okay.
line. I feel
Okay.
like you do have to be tasteful.
Yes.
Like if I was as big of an artist as David Sanborn, or bigger, like
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
Whitney
Yeah.
Houston,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
have more license. Like I'm
Yes.
not that big, so
No.
I
No.
try I
No.
try to take less license. I think that the amount you take is relative to like who you
Where
are
you
to the
are, yeah.
world.
Well, I love your
But
version. I love your version of
thank you.
this, and they show you walking out. You're in the team sort of jumper and that. Let's have a look at you at a sports event playing the U.S. national anthem.
At this time, we'd like to ask all fans to rise and remove your caps. It's our veterans in the crowd salute the flag. Please welcome saxophonist and recording artist Jason Whitmore. Sing along as he performs the Star Spangled Banner. With our national anthem, Jason Whitmore.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you? If they see this podcast, they love the way you play, they might just want to say hello. Have you got a preferred way for people to reach out to connect with you?
Yeah, go find me on Instagram. I'm on all the social platforms, but Instagram is probably the most well maintained. And follow me there. That's where all of my content is. If you want to shoot me a direct message, by all means do that. I check my messages, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
We want to go out with another collaboration you did, I believe, with a friend of yours, Lola Christine. It's a beautiful song called California Cowboy. Tell us a bit about Lola and maybe about this song, how this collaboration came together.
Well, I met Lola on a gig. We were working in collaboration with other group of musicians. A friend of mine, Spags, who's a violin player and event planner, and so we were working a private gig. So Lola was singing and playing piano, and I just enjoyed working with her. She's such a talented artist, and after meeting her, I listened to some of her own original. She has several albums out, and I've listened to some of her recordings, and her style really spoke to me. And she's such a sweet person too. So I asked her if she would mind specifically recording a variation of one of her songs that would kind of feature me too, just so I could be a part of it. I mean, the original recording doesn't have me, but I liked her music a lot. So she said, yeah, of course. And so we recorded this little version of California Cowboy. It's one of her songs. And Yeah, it came out great.
Well, you worked together really well on this. It sounds like it was made for an alto sax solo. It's interesting, as you said, you requested, could you do a different version to let you get your foot in the door? Let's have a look and a listen to California Cowboy.
You shield in your eyes, keep your headphones on, so no one can see how beautiful you are. But I am the one that you let inside. Now the tables are turned, 'cause it didn't even have to cry. You got me saying, ooh, baby, it's time for a change. You got me saying, ooh, how would I ride away? Every time I look at you, things fall into place. Flying out of nowhere, and it seems you were raised by California cowboy. You know you feel like home to me, and it scares me half to death, 'cause you're sweeping me off on my feet. Yeah. Ooh, oh, yeah, now. I'm not used to being on the other side of the chair. I'm always running after someone who is running the other way. But every time I look at you, things fall into place. Flying out of nowhere, and it seems the world a race. My California cowboy, you know you feel like home to me, and it scares me half to death, 'cause you're sweeping me off on my feet. You know it scares me half to death, 'cause you're sweeping me off on my feet.
Jason, has been fantastic talking to you today and listening to that wide variety of musical styles that you got your foot in the water in. I hope one day Cannonball give you some more saxophone, so you're not stuck just on alto and baritone. One of the things that we always do in this podcast is I ask my guests, would they be interested in doing a musical collaboration to end the podcast? And you said yes, and you picked a great old song from the 60s, Sunny. And we'll go out with this where you're on your alto, I'm on my tenor. And I think it's a great example of not to be scared of technology. You and I simply could not have done this just a handful of years ago. And we would have never met each other than through actively taking part in modern day technology. So thanks very much, mate, for taking the time to be part of the series. It's been really fantastic talking with you.
Thanks, Brian. It's been a pleasure. It was great meeting you and talking to you as well. So I appreciate you having me on the show.
Let's go out with Sunny.